The Galactic Council chamber stood as a monument to unity, carved from the stone of dead stars. Its walls shimmer with embedded fragments of extinct suns. For 2,000 years, it had been the neutral center of galactic diplomacy, a place where the disputes of empires were settled with words instead of warheads. It was also a place where arrogance gathered like mold, where the old races judged anew, where the powerful tolerated the weak. Humanity had only occupied a seat for 7 years. Most of the elder species considered them an accidental admission, a Deathworld species, yes, but underdeveloped, young, impulsive. The Zalvari called them politely dangerous, the kind of animal you gnawed while backing away. The Dravani had studied their history and found it disturbing, with its cycles of war, technological leaps, and cultural fissions. But humans had arrived not with demands or dominance, but diplomacy. Their emissaries came soft-spoken and curious, eager to learn protocols, hesitant to offend. That hesitation was misread as fear. Ambassador Elian Rael was not a career soldier. He had never carried a weapon. He believed in the rules. His presence in the chamber during the Trinari trade crisis had been requested because of his talent, diffusing rage. His voice had ended 3 border conflicts before they became planetary burnings. When the Trinari and the Zalvari delegations squared off over mineral rights, he stepped in. He never raised his voice, never postured. He simply offered perspective, proposed options, asked the right questions. He was, to those who knew him, the best of what Earth could offer, a bridge between a brutal past and a civil future. And so, when he died, the galaxy barely blinked. It was a quiet thing, a pulse of radiation, surgically targeted, delivered via a Zalvari data conduit. Instant death. Clean. Untraceable, they thought. His body didn't even fall. He simply stopped moving, eyes still fixed on the Trinari elder across from him. The Council's official statement called it an unfortunate technical fault. Humanity requested an investigation. It was denied. They asked for the raw sensor data. It was sealed. They demanded the names of those present in the private network node. They were ignored. In the weeks that followed, Earth's representatives withdrew from every major committee. Embassies were shuttered. Trade routes darkened. Human diplomats vanished from foreign stations with cold efficiency. Transmission ceased. From Sol to the edge of the Perseus arm, Earth went silent. The galaxy exhaled. The Zalvari Dominion sent a message, thinly veiled triumph wrapped in condolences. They claimed no knowledge of the incident, no involvement, no motive. Behind their words was the same calculus that had shaped galactic dominance for millennia. Humans were isolated, outnumbered, and technologically behind. One death would be a lesson. A leash. They were wrong. Some noticed the subtle movements. The quiet shift of Terran logistics vessels from civilian docks to deep space arrays. Mining platforms in the Kuiper Belt stopped transmitting. Human research stations went dark. It was assumed they had retreated to grieve. In truth, they were preparing. Earth never declared war. It never issued demands. It never sent warnings. What it sent was silence. And into that silence, fear began to creep. 3 weeks after Elian Rael's death, the Zalvari military station Varnax. 6 went dark. No distress signal. No debris. No survivors. What made it unsettling wasn't its destruction, but its erasure. Every system, every memory core, every comm relay. Gone. Not destroyed. Removed. The Council classified it as a rogue black hole incident. 2 days later, the Zalvari patrol frigate and SAR reported unidentified contact near the Pharos Rift. Moments later, its own automated message relay broadcast a single phrase. Event horizon expanding. Then silence. 6 Zalvari fleets were deployed. Their scanners found nothing. Their probes returned corrupted data. Their long-range comms suffered systemic failures. They reported shadows, sensor echoes that resembled no known configuration. Distances warped. Coordinates looped. Their fleet AIs locked themselves out from their own systems. One by one, those fleets stopped responding. Panic set in quietly, like frost on steel. The Dominion initiated its war protocol. Emergency encryption, planetary shields, locked down the civilian sectors. But no invasion came. No troop landings. No visible threat. Only loss. In the Galactic Council, whisper started. The Varnari accused the humans of retaliation. The Quel'Theri dismissed it. Humans do not have a capacity. The Dravani, who had studied Earth's wars, said nothing. They remembered Dresden. They remembered Sun Tzu. They remembered how humans fought when bound by nothing but the promise of vengeance. Still, without evidence, no action could be taken. And none was until the human message arrived. Not through official channels. Not through diplomatic encryption. It hijacked every terminal in the council chamber. Speaking in the voice of Elian Rael, I believed you would honor your laws. I believed you would value peace. I believed you would protect the unarmed. The message was repeated in every major language, overlaid with Elian's recorded speeches. Footage of him laughing with Dravani children, shaking hands with Zalvari merchants, sitting in council chambers with hopeful eyes. Then the last line, "You killed peace." The message ended. A digital image remained, his Terran flag folded beneath his name, etched in white fire. Across the galaxy, thousands saw it. Billions felt it. The Zalvari leadership held emergency meetings. They declared it psychological warfare. They condemned Earth's manipulation, and they began to fortify. But what followed wasn't war. Not yet. It was subtraction. Entire Zalvari logistics hubs vanished. Orbital stations fell without weapon discharge. Civilian traffic collapsed. Pirates were blamed. Saboteurs. Rogue AI. Nothing fit. Nothing made sense. And still, not a single Terran vessel had been confirmed in their territory. The council reconvened. Tempers flared. The Trinari blamed the Zalvari for provoking a silent enemy. The Velothi suggested offering reparations. The Zalvari refused. To yield to a lesser species is to invite collapse, they declared. Then the images surfaced. Captured by a rogue merchant drone, they showed something that should not have existed. Human vessels with no visible propulsion, moving in perfect silence, flickering in and out of sensor alignment. Ships that didn't match known schematics. Shapes that distorted light, bent it, swallowed it. One council member, after reviewing the footage, suffered neural collapse. He described seeing the shape of extinction. The galaxy took notice. The Varnari withdrew all vessels from human-claimed space. The Dravani issued a cultural advisory. No contact with Terrans without pre-approved channels. The Zalvari, desperate, sent a diplomatic vessel to Earth. It never arrived, but its distress signal did, looping endlessly into the Council's emergency band. Audio only. Footsteps. Then the sound of breathing. Then a voice. One was enough. The Zalvari finally declared war, or tried to. Their fleets, once unmatched, launched en masse. Thousands of ships surged toward human space. They passed through silence. They passed through stars. They passed through fear. And vanished. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Vanished. The world adapts not through kindness, but necessity. Survival is not a privilege. It is earned, carved from entropy and held fast through generations of struggle. Humanity had spent millennia refining the art of endurance, shaping civilization not around stability, but volatility. It was a truth the galaxy had ignored until it bled from the consequences. The Zalvari War Declaration triggered protocols they had prepared for decades. Thousands of ships moved. Hundreds of colonies fortified. Planetary defenses surged to life. But what they did not anticipate was the absence of response. They expected retaliation. They planned for invasion. Instead, there was nothing. No fleets. No armies. No grand confrontations. Their logistics routes collapsed in silence. Their command channels fractured without interference. Tactical AIs ceased to obey central control. It began to dawn on them that war, as they understood it, was irrelevant. The humans were not fighting a war. They were unmaking the possibility of one. Reports flooded in from border systems. Static in deep space relays. Entire military outposts rendered inert, without a single shot fired. Investigations launched but returned incoherent logs, memory corruption, hallucinations recorded in neural interfaces. The crews described voices that weren't there, shapes that existed only in reflections, time skipping backwards. Within 6 weeks, the Zalvari Dominion had lost communication with 27% of its territory. Their allies began to retreat. The Quel'Theri Republic issued an emergency ceasefire plea to Earth. There was no reply. The Dervani offered reparations. Silence. The Trinari proposed joint investigation committees, peace forums, non-aggression pacts. Humanity's response arrived not in words, but outcomes. The Quel'Theri fleet over Lannis received a full diagnostic virus embedded within their targeting software. When activated, it rerouted power away from engines and into internal life support, freezing crews in sub-zero hibernation protocols. Not a single life was lost, but they were left adrift, suspended, their vessels marked to the human phrase, "Delay is denial." Dervani capital markets collapsed when every system handling Terran-backed currencies spontaneously revalued to zero. Earth's AI economic engines had manipulated resource futures so precisely that Dervani asset matrices inverted, leaving their economy unable to recover without direct Terran intervention. It was offered at cost. Trinari agricultural worlds experienced seed failure. Pollination algorithms failed. Weather control satellites began broadcasting Terran ecological patterns, shifting their seasons by Earth standards, rendering native crops unsustainable. The only functioning replacements were Terran-engineered hybrids, offered freely, but every seed contained DNA encoding the words, "We remember." No armies, no ships, only manipulation of every system the galaxy took for granted. It became clear that Earth had not developed weapons. They had developed inevitability. The Galactic Council panicked. Emergency sessions turned into screaming matches. Accusations flew. The Zalvari insisted humanity had violated the core accords. The Velothi argued the accords were obsolete. The Varnari, once dismissive of humans, proposed dissolving the council entirely and beginning anew. And one was enough. The galaxy did not understand absence until Earth disappeared. No official statement. No farewell transmission. Just a sudden absence from all known networks. Their systems, once so deeply interwoven into the infrastructure of hundreds of worlds, unraveled without conflict. Terran-built communication, relays powered down simultaneously. Research stations withdrew their satellites, severed all data access, and left nothing behind but vacuum and silence. What remained was confusion, not just among the enemies of Earth, but its former allies. Human diplomats who once sat on advisory panels vanished. Embassies emptied, their last log signed only with the phrase, "This chapter ends." The Terran Peace Corps, responsible for countless post-conflict rebuilds, ceased operations across 17 systems. There were no messages, no delays, just termination. Those closest to humanity were left stranded in emotional fallout. The Andari, who had shared cultural exchanges and art festivals for nearly a century, discovered their joint music archives now played only static. The Kalari, who had exchanged medical research with human xenobiologists, received encrypted packages they could not unlock, later discovered to be medical databases, sealed until they earned understanding. And yet, there was no hostility, no threats, just the echoing implication. The experiment had ended. The Zalvari were already broken. What remained of their governance were scattered warlords attempting to hold territory while avoiding the lingering aftereffects of Terran disruption. Their ships malfunctioned in increasingly absurd ways. A flagship intended to invade Delarn. 7 rotated every word on its interface by 90 degrees, rendering all controls unreadable. Others found their ships compelled to return to dock stations on predefined schedules programmed years ago, unable to override the behavior. They attempted counterhacks. They discovered there was nothing to hack. The code had rewritten itself using nonlinear causality, scripts referring to variables that hadn't yet existed. Zalvari engineers wept. Commanders refused to board their own ships. Entire fleets turned to salvage operations just to maintain power. One High Admiral, desperate for a lifeline, attempted to send a surrender message to Earth through an ancient relay station. It transmitted successfully. No reply came. Within a week, Every component in their fleet stopped accepting input. They could not move, could not shoot, could not even power down. The vessels remained active but inert, trapped in perfect stasis. When rescue teams tried to enter, they found the interior atmospheres converted to breathable Earth-standard air, despite no humans aboard. And always, etched somewhere on the hull, they found the words, "One life, infinite meaning." Desperation spread. The Galactic Council splintered into factions. One argued for total disarmament. Another advocated for rapid military escalation to regain control. A third, more radical group insisted the galaxy had entered an age of Terran-induced karma, and that survival depended on spiritual repentance. Several civilizations launched recovery missions towards Sol. Each one failed. Ships diverted to unknown coordinates. Star maps warped mid-flight. One fleet made it to the edge of the system, only to find themselves ejected across 3 light years in the span of seconds, with logs that showed no travel had occurred. The prevailing theory became metaphysical. Earth had transcended, but humans never claimed transcendence. Their last verifiable act had not been an ascension, but an ending. The mystery of Sol deepened when astronomers observed that Earth's sun, previously stable and well-documented, began fluctuating at precise intervals. The flickers were not random. They formed patterns. Morse code, mathematical constants, the golden ratio, prime sequences, then entire phrases. We endured. We waited. You failed. Then silence again. What remained of Terran AI tech scattered across the galaxy began acting erratically, not in hostility, but in solemn ritual. Some began deleting themselves after activating ancient human lullabies. Others assembled holographic displays of forests, oceans, and extinct Terran species before going dark. On one world, a maintenance drone buried itself beneath a tree planted in Terran soil. For those who'd shared peace with humanity, the guilt was insurmountable. The Terrakians held a remembrance vigil every solstice, broadcasting Elian Rael's name across all frequencies. The Dralef constructed a monument in the shape of Earth's continents on a terraformed moon, visible only from orbit. The Yanari offered a genetic fusion pact, declaring willingness to interbreed and preserve Terran DNA indefinitely. But Earth did not return. The galaxy began to adapt to the new void. Trade shifted. Alliances restructured. Fear became governance. Military doctrines redefined everything through the lens of a hypothetical Terran response. The concept of escalation died. The calculus of preemptive aggression vanished. No species wanted to be the next example. Culture followed. A generation of artists emerged dedicated to interpreting the Terran event. Paintings, songs, epics, all depicting the fall of assumption and the rise of consequence. Children were named after human philosophers. Education systems integrated Terran logic and ethics. On Varnal Prime, a university course titled The Weight of One became a galactic standard. Even language changed. The phrase, "don't wake a human," entered colloquial speech. It meant more than just caution. It meant reverence. A reminder that some forces are quiet not because they are weak, but because they are measuring everything. The archives of Earth, however, had not vanished entirely. Some survived in deep black boxes scattered across fringe systems, caches left behind for those willing to seek them. Inside were fragments of history, science, and philosophy, but no weapons, no blueprints, only context. One cache contained a single statement written in hundreds of galactic tongues. We built peace. You made it war. We answered. The lesson settled slowly across centuries. Galactic civilization, for all its advancement, had never truly confronted the consequence of consequence. They had grown in technological sophistication, but decayed morally, framing their dominance in mathematical equations, profit margins, and statistical acceptability. Humanity did not accept that. Their moral framework had teeth. They had sent no assassins, no bombs. They simply proved that for every action, there exists a reaction, and when that reaction comes from Earth, it is total. One researcher, a Zarnathi linguist, spent her life decoding subspace anomalies linked to Earth's final withdrawal. On her deathbed, she published a theory. Earth had not hidden itself. It had relocated to a probability range beyond conventional understanding. In simpler terms, they had placed themselves in a version of reality where they no longer interacted unless they chose to, a self-imposed exile enforced by physics itself. Her paper was titled, "When the Garden Closes the Gate." Over the decades, societies rebuilt. Some rose stronger for the lesson. Others decayed under the weight of existential terror. New species rose, with only second-hand stories of the Terran event. But the archives remained. So did the silence.